There's a lot of personal attention that goes into every single blade that we make.
I love that they make everything themselves.
Local craftsmanship.
Everything that happens to the knives we make, someone's hands are on it.
This knife is pretty dull. I can go like that and not have to worry about anything.
A dull knife is far more dangerous than a sharp knife.
They care about the craftsmanship of it.
The fact that we're not just a custom knife shop. We sharpen, we refurb knives. We like to refer ourselves as the knife guys.
This knife is... I love meeting with customers and designing their custom knife. That's my favorite part.
One of a kind.
For me, it's definitely a passion. People want something that I make and enjoy it.
Serenity Knives came about in January of 2010 when I realized I wanted to leave my full-time job and do something with my hands, making something, crafting something. And so the conversation with my wife and I that we had was basically, hey, you've always loved knives, why don't you learn knife making? And then I found Murray Carter, who's a very well-established knife maker in Portland, Oregon, and I did 5.5 weeks of workshops with him. I was working at Starbucks, and 6 months later, I opened Serenity Knives. The main difference between a cheap knife and an expensive knife is the quality of the steel that goes into it. You can buy a cheap knife from any big box store, and it will really have a subpar, probably not even blade material steel in it. High-end knives will typically hold their edge about a year longer, depending on how much you're cooking, than a cheaper knife. We're at the amazing time in knife making where we have steels being designed specifically for knives. And that's the first time in the history of knives that that's happened. So we get a lot of customers that come through and they want to design their own knife.
You know, I had some ideas brewing in my head about something that I wanted to take camping and outdoors and just have a quality blade.
So the first thing is we talk about shape. We'll then talk about steel and whether they want high carbon steel or stainless. So knives literally start out as dimensionalized steel. Like you'd buy a 2x4 at the lumber yard. We buy dimensionalized steel dependent on the thickness of the steel. At that point, we put a template on the steel. We'll scribe it out. And we cut that out with an angle grinder. And then we get into profiling, which we do on the big wheel. And we really narrow that shape down to that final shape of the knife. And then we start doing the real work of making the knife of the grind line. That takes the majority of the time. It's the biggest skilled labor we have in making a knife.
So basically what I'll do here is start on the 120, get this nice and even. I'm gonna get this nick out right here if you can see it. What that'll allow me to do is get the burr on one side. I'll flip it on over to this side and do the same thing. When I get both sides nice and even, I'll make sure my burr's all down one side, flip on over to a 400, do the same thing, and then we take it to a stone so that way we give it a nice finishing. I won't go forward on the edge so that way everything draws itself to the center. This is how I know whether or not my stuff is sharp.
And then right after polishing, you can start attaching your handle. The handle's really important because that's your connection to the knife. Once the handle's all done, then we put an edge on it and it's all done.
Well, this knife and this style, you see it has the, you know, the large, wide blade, thick spine, and the shape of it more or less is what you would consider a Bowie knife, named after Colonel James Bowie. That's Madagascar ebony wood handle, a bronze finger guard, and a Texas pin right there in the handle.
What makes it different is the quality and the customer support, knowing that I'll always have somebody to take care of my knives.
Well, my favorite one is like this boning knife, which is absolutely beautiful, and I use for seafood. It's perfect, it's very thin. It's just really easy to break down fish with. Anything
about a knife, we want to be able to kind of be the all-around answer or help for anybody who's asking.
They're passionate about what they do. They're not like overproducing a bunch of knives. They're making knives one at a time, customized to how you like it.
Anything that's handcrafted, to me, a knife is also art. You know? So just like you pay a good price for a piece of art, I pay a good price for an artful knife.